What is up? Back here with another YouTube video, and in case you cannot tell by the title below, this one will be one where I share my thoughts and opinions on a arguably well-known pro wrestler, sports entertainer in Stephanie Vaquer. I think that's how you pronounce your last name. I apologize if I misspoke. But when it comes to Stephanie, I would love to know what your thoughts and opinions are on her down in the comments below. First time I ever heard about her was in the lead up to Forbidden Door 2024, and I think that was late June of the pay-per-view, late June of 2024, and that was the first time I ever heard about her. Kind of deal, because it's one of those things where I know that she was well known in, I think it was Mexico, if I remember right. Before, I think it was CMLL. It might have been AAA. I don't watch wrestling down in the US or down in Mexico, kind of deal. But when it comes to Stephanie Vaquer, from again mid to late June up until nowadays, granted she's been around for a while. I think Cage Match, it's been a minute since I checked Cage Match, but like off and on since like 2009, and I think she had some time off in between then. So like been wrestling for a decade and a half, and I only followed last like 8 months, if that. So when it comes to her body of work, I'm not necessarily the most familiar, but what I have seen her on the microphone, I don't mean this disrespectfully, because the only language I know is English, and I still stumble over my words, and I'm well over 30 years into life. And so her not necessarily being the best on the microphone in general, whether English is your only language or it's your second, third, or fourth, whatever the case might be, you're going to be a lot better than what I would be. So her on the microphone, not necessarily the best, but I'm also not putting too much weight behind it, because again, English, as far as I'm aware of, is not her first language, and she, again, probably definitely better than what I would be, without a shadow of a doubt. And when it comes to Stephanie, her in the ring, she is one of those, I mean this in a good way, that if I'm watching Raw, SmackDown, NXT, whichever brand she shows up on, and if I know that she's having a match, chances are high that I'm going to watch it, because it's going to be, I mean this in a good way, entertaining. And what I mean by that is she the best wrestler ever? I personally, probably not. Depends on how you define best, kind of deal. But she is one of those, especially in the women's division in WWE, the one or three, depending on which way you would want to look at it, that like the future of the women's division in WWE, when it comes to strictly wrestling wise, is in good hands. Her, Zarya, and Julia, kind of deal, within the next, hopefully, couple of years. And when it comes to Vaquer, out of the three, she's the one, I don't want to say has the highest potential, because all of them have the pretty big potential, but she's the one that I would be most excited for, to see her mixing it up, whether again it's in NXT, on Raw, or on SmackDown, on PLEs, kind of deal. And that's no disrespect to the other two, in Zarya and in Julia, but it's one of those things where it's like, if you said that one of the other two women are your favorites, I can totally understand why. It's like number one, number 2A, 2B, kind of deal. And when it comes to Stephanie Vaquer, again, I know that I'm not necessarily the most familiar with her body of work, especially in comparison to people who have followed her pre-AEW / WWE, but it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, they're in good hands. The only big thing that she might need help with is, again, talking on the microphone, which, like I mentioned, I don't really hold too much weight, especially with how they, both on the main roster and in NXT, have been doing the pre-tapes for people whose language is not English as their first, kind of deal. Like Shinsuke Nakamura can talk Japanese and have English subtitles. I think Stephanie, I could be wrong, speaks Spanish and having English subtitles. Again, pretty sure it's Spanish. Correct me if I'm wrong. And whatnot. But yeah, when it comes to Stephanie, I personally really enjoy her in the ring and all of that stuff. But those are my thoughts and opinions. Would love to know what yours are on Stephanie Vaquer down in the comments below. It would mean a lot to myself if you do treat yourself mentally, emotionally, physically. That would mean a lot more to myself and all of that fun stuff.